guys, welcome back to my channel Code with Anish. Today we will learn how to develop an Android application for the authentication purpose. So this is similar to my previous video where I have created a web page for authentication using Angular technology. So in this video we will try to reproduce the same application, same authentication application which we done using Angular, but now not as a web page but as a pure Android application. Okay, so here the wireframe which we are going to use for our Android application will be same as what we used in our previous video for creating the web page. We should have a login page, a sign up page, and the login page will contain a username and password where the existing user can come and log in by entering his username and password. Similarly, the sign up page where the user can create a new username and password and then sign up. In both these pages, we will have a sign in with Google option also. So here the user doesn't need to create a username or password. Instead, he can use his Google credential to authenticate to our application. So those who have seen my previous video for that authentication web page will get a much better picture. So whoever is new to this video, I will share the link below so you can go and check the previous video also, so you will get a better picture of the authentication web page. So so once from the login page or the sign up page and using the sign in with Google, once the user authenticated, we will get an authentication token, and once we receive that token, our Android application, we should show a home page, and in the home page it should display that username who has just got authenticated and his roles. This roles detail and all, who have seen the previous video will know how we get the roles. So this roles and username, we can decode that authentication token and get here. Then he will have then in that page we will have a fetch employees button. So on clicking the fetch employees button, it should call a demo microservice which we have created in our previous video, and this demo microservice return a list of employees which we should display in our Android app, this home page of the Android app. So this is what we are going to develop in the Android application. So unlike the previous video, here I'm not going to do the code in live, but rather I have already developed the Android application and I will walk through that code and I will explain how it can be developed. Also, I will provide the GitHub link of this project, so you can also download that and try in your machine as well. So to develop an Android application, we need an IDE. So basically the IDE used is Android Studio. Yeah, this is the Android Studio application. So this you can download from the Google. So once you open the Android Studio, you can, to create a project, you can click this new project button, and there will be a lot of activities. So for time being, you can click on this empty activity and then next, and then you can give the application name, your package name. Yeah, this should be an unique name, because using this only your application will be identified in the Play Store. So you can name it, give a unique name for the package, and then the minimum SDK. So minimum SDK, I have chosen 29. So when I use 29, it says that 81% of our active devices now running currently can support from this 29. So I use the minimum as 29, and then when you click the finish button, it will create the project. So this I have already done it. So just I'm showing a demo only how to create a project. So here you can see I have already created the application and kept it ready. So maybe I will open that and show you how it looks. Okay, so this is how the project looks. So as I showed earlier, if you are creating a project by selecting an empty activity, what you will see is you will get a project structure like this, and initially it will have a main activity created in your project structure, and you will have a layout as activity main. So these two things will be created. Fine. So before continuing this, I'll just show some other things like the SDK. When we develop a Java project, we have the JDK. Same way for Android, it is called SDK. So SDK, what I have selected is, as I shown in the creation of project, the minimum I have selected is 29, and the latest one I have used is 34. So 34 is the latest available SDK. So I have selected that to support my application. So that my application will support from the SDK version 29 till 34. So that thing will be set in this file called build.gradle. So if you open the build.gradle, you will see the minimum SDK version which we selected when we are creating the project. And the target SDK is the current SDK I am using, which is 34. Yeah. So here, so based on this only, Android will provide the libraries required to develop this project. So these two things are important, just keep in mind. And this namespace is nothing, the same package ID which you given here, the same will be the application ID also. So this build.gradle will be also created as part of your initial project creation. So you can see all that details, because this all you have given while creating the project, so that will appear here. In addition to this library, some general library I have added Lompoc, which many people will be aware, or whoever is not aware, is using this Lompoc. We don't want to, it will reduce so many boilerplate code in our Java class, like the getters and setters we don't need to write, the constructors we don't need to write, toString and all that. So we can remove all that boilerplate code using a Lompoc annotation. So that only I have used this thing. So how we define this is, like if you seen in a Maven project, it will be like we have to define the group ID, we have to define the artifact ID and the version. So here how it is done is, this Gradle is intern, the build.gradle file is intern a Kotlin supported file. You can see, right, build.gradle.kts, which is a Kotlin supported. Kotlin is another language now which is widely spreading in the Android field. Many developers are developing project using Kotlin only. So the Gradle also, they have enabled the Kotlin support. So when you come here if you see libs.lompoc, this means that we can, in the Gradle folder, if you come to the Gradle folder, you can see there is something called libversions.toml file. So here we can define the versions like we seen in the pom.xml. We will define the artifact ID, group ID and the version same way. So here if you see, I have given us a name as Lompoc, its group ID is this same as what we define in the Maven only, and the name is nothing, the artifact ID, and the version refers to Lompoc, which is defined here under the version property. So here you can see the version is 1.8.32. So after defining this here, you can after defining here, you can sync the Gradle. This tool will automatically, whenever we make a change, it will show sync now. So once you sync it, this library will be automatically downloaded, and then here you can refer in the dependency, you can just refer like libs will be pointing to this file. There what we are referring Lompoc. So Lompoc is nothing, this library which we defined here. So in this way, we don't want to make this build.gradle cloudy using all that definition. Instead we can make keep the code clean by defining everything in the toml file and just referring here. We can also copy this and put there as well, but it will look like this. For example, I can put like org dot project. I can put like this here. Org dot project, then the library like this one. Can give like this, and then the version name, but this will make the code look a little bit cloudy. Instead, we can just refer like this. Okay, so this is how we define a library for our Android application. Any dependent library we will define here. We have to define the version, artifact ID, group ID in this normal file, and just give the reference here as an implementation or compile only. So implementation will be used in the runtime. Compiler is used only for the while the compilation. Okay, so that's the basic structure of the build.gradle file. Now coming back to our application, as I told, we will have the main activity and the layout activity main. So here what we need in our Android application, we need first a login and sign up page. Correct. So then what we need, once the login or sign up, means I will say authentication, login, sign up, or sign in with Google, whatever, or in any of these three options is successful, we should navigate to the home page. So this login and sign up and this home page here, what I have done is I created this as a fragment. Okay, so if you are new to Android UI, this web page is called an activity. For example, if I want to create something, page there, this is called as an activity. Activities is the page which we are seeing when you open the mobile, when you open application in an Android mobile. That page you are seeing is called activity. So if I earlier this fragment came after the activity, means like not recently, I will say it came after the activity. Initially there was only the activity concept, so each page will be an activity. For example, if I say login page, sign up page, home page, each will be correspond to an activity. But what happening is with this activity, whenever we create multiple activities, all these activities will be stored in the memory, because when we click the back button, for example, I am saying I am in the login page and I move to the home page. So this login page will be still preserved in memory when I am still using the home page. That's because that is why, because Android or any mobile will have a back button option. When we click the back button, we should navigate to the previous activity. So this what happening is, this will actually load the memory and impact the performance of the application. So then what the Android they come up is like, Android is owned by Google, so the Google come up is like a fragment. Fragment is nothing, it's like one activity can hold multiple fragment. So I have an application, I have one activity, I can hold all this login page, sign up page, or home page as a multiple fragment. So the advantage of this is, when I'm navigating from one fragment to another fragment, I can destroy this fragment and go to the next fragment. So thereby, for example, I was in the login fragment. When the login is successful, I am navigated to home fragment. So what I can do is I can completely destroy this login page. So there is no, this back button, the fragment does not support the back button. So there is no point in saving the backtrace also. So I can destroy it. So thereby memory will not get overloaded. This current memory will only hold this home page and its related libraries. It will not have any reference to this login page. So this way, with this introduction of fragment in this, that performance has improved. So I also follow the same concept. I will only use one activity, and these pages will be treated as a fragment, so that when I navigate from one page to another, I can destroy the previous fragment and go. Okay, so now if I open the main activity, so now you got a little bit idea of what's a fragment and what I have explained. So main activity have a method called onCreate. So activity has a life cycle. This life cycle I can show in their Android developer page only, so you will get a much better picture. So coming here, you can see the life cycle of an activity. So whenever you launch an activity, that means when you come to an application, you click the icon, the application will open. Application what in turn opens an activity. So once an activity is opened or launched, first it will called on create method, then the start method, and then the resume method. That is why you can see an on create. So this is the first method which will get called when the activity is launched. Then on start and on resume. So there you can see the on start and on resume again has some other arrow. That means it will be called not only on the initial launch, rather also for other actions as well. Okay. So now let's assume that the activity is launched. It's called on create, on start, and on resume, and the activity is running. Now we got an on pause method. This on pause, okay. Okay, maybe I will explain this in this flow only. So then we have so this is a creation life cycle, then this is something like destruction life cycle, say. So there it is like on pause, on stop, and on destroy. On destroy means the application activity is completed. That means you have come out of that activity. Okay, so starting will be like create, start, and resume. So destruction will be like pause, stop, and destroy. Okay, so now creation and destruction is ready. So along with this creation destruction life cycle, there are some other actions also. So what is that? On pause. The on pause will be called not only when we are coming out of the activity or coming out of the application, it will be also called when. For example, you when you are using an application, you suddenly got a call in your mobile. So what happened? The application which you are using will go to that, or the activity, the corresponding activity will go to the on pause state. Now once you cut the call, that call that call options will be gone and your activity will be resumed back. Correct? That's how it works. So when the call is over and you disconnect the call, activity will resume only because it doesn't get stopped. Okay, so it will go to the on resume method. So if the activity is paused, then on coming back to that activity, it will call the on resume method only. Okay, same way on stop. On stop means you are using the activity, you suddenly click the home button or you navigated to some other activity. Okay, so once you navigate to some other activity, the current activity means another application, the current activity of this application will go to the stop state and it's not till destroyed, it's in the stop state. So now you come back to the application which you are using, this activity will on start again because it went to on stop because you navigated from one application to another application, the application you're using to another application. Now it will come to on start. So this will be called, this method will be called. Now as I told, on destroy. On destroy is nothing, you completely came out of the app and the app is destroyed. Then again when you launch that application, this the same creation life cycle, create, start, and resume you call. Okay, same way during the on pause and on stop state also, when your app is in the on pause state, that means you got a call or something, it is in the on pause state. At that time, some other application which is running in the background or some other application, maybe your call activity only requires a higher memory and already your application which is now running, now it has go to the background, right? So what happened? It is still running in the background, so it is using the memory. So but the applications which like the call activity you are doing, that is now in the foreground, which requires now more memory. So then what happened, the app process will kill that, because when the memory compromises, it will kill all the background applications and the corresponding activity, it will kill. Okay, and now when you app process killed, and now when the call got disconnected and you comes over, it will again call the creation lifecycle. It will go like this. Same way, on stop. On stop means you navigated to another application from your application. So it is not the current application is not a destroyed. The new application will be in the front end. Same way, if this new application in turn requires more memory, what happened? The Android OS has to kill the background application which we were using earlier, which was in the on stop state. So it will kill that. And now you navigate back, it will again call the on create. Okay, so this is how an activity works. So this all, the on create, on start, on receive, we can define in the method to propagate the flow. So where we want, for example, if I am getting a call when I am using this application, I should do something. If I want to do something, what then I have to define that in on pause method. That means when I'm using the application, if I get a call, I want to do something in my application, then you should define that in the on pause, because the on pause method will be called in such activity. When I'm using the application, some other application the user opened, what should I do? Otherwise I want to do something in that state, then you have to define that operations in or that actions in the on stop method. Okay, same way the user navigates back after the call, so it is still in the on pause state, it is not yet stopped, so it will call only the on resume. So in that case also, if in my application I want to do something when the when the user cuts the call and come back, I want to do something, then you whatever you want to define, that has to be defined in the on resume method. Same like start method, user navigated to other application and come back to your application, it will not call on create, it will be on start only. So you want to do some operation in that particular sequence, then you can define the on start method. On create is something when the app is launched. So that's only here I have defined only the on create, because I don't want to handle the on start or the on resume or on pause or on stop, because nothing, I don't want to do anything. I just, whenever the user comes back, whenever the user launch an application, I have to do something. That's only I have created in the on create. So the default operation we have to do is, whenever we call on create, we should call the super.on create, because this activity extends the app compact activity. So super.on create should be called, because these are, here we define what we have to do, but from an application level there are so many actions which has to be done there, because the app has to come in the front end, we have to see, right? There are so many, so that this method is mandatory, we should call super.on create. Now then the set content view. So content view is nothing, what we are seeing in that activity. So that is defined in the activity.main, which is where in this activity main.xml. So this file, whatever we define. So here in the Android, how it works is the UI side all we maintain in the XML file. So it's similar to HTML, but not exactly. There are so many differences. But if you are seeing in the Angular application also, there we define in the HTML page, and the functionalities, the business operation or the execution we defined in the TypeScript TS. Like you have seen in the component section, we have seen the TypeScript file, we defined that operation to be done, and the HTML file we defined how the look and feel of the page. Similarly, in the XML file we define the look and feel, where the button should there, where the text field should there, all that we do, and corresponding operation we will do in this Java class. Okay, so our content is like defined here. Okay, so then let me go to that content. So if you go to the content here, what I use, as I told in the beginning, I am going to use fragment only for this login page or sign up page. I am going to use, or this home page, I am using fragment, and all this fragment will be in one activity. So here what I defined is, in this activity layout, I will not have anything. I will just have a, what do you say, a skeleton where I will replace my fragments. So I may be using the login fragment or the home fragment or the sign up fragment. There's a fragment I will use here. I'll say authentication fragment and the home fragment. I will use that only here. So that's all about this activity XML file. There is nothing, no test field, nothing, no UI, only this is a, I will say, holder for the fragment. So that's everything. That you can use a fragment container view, this class, and then define the unknown ID for it, and because this ID is used whenever we want to replace the fragments, and the layout width and height is match parent, means it will fill the screen. It will be, this will be completely filling the activity screen. It will complete this fragment will, whatever coming as a fragment will fill that entire screen, width also full and height also the full screen. That's what it is. Simple, there is no much logic there. So that we have setting, and that XML will be set using the set content view, so that the framework will understand this XML is to be rendered as a page in the activity, in this main activity. Okay. Now I have put one thing like saved instance state is equal to null, then only I am initializing the fragment. This is because I have put the command also here, because now you know, right, our Android mobile anything, we have an option of portrait and landscape mode. For example, when we are using the application, we will be normally using in the portrait mode, where the width is small and the height is long, that mode, the portrait mode. And when we turn into landscape mode, suddenly you have seen that many applications will change their screen orientation. Correct. So when a screen orientation is changed, it is intent. From the Android perspective, it is an activity. Activity will be what happened, the lifecycle which I showed you, it will get destroyed and recreated again. That will happen. So the saved instance state will be null only when we launch that application. When we launch the application only, it will be null. When you rotate the screen, the activity get destroyed and recreated. At that time, the saved instance state will not be there. Will not be null. The framework will take care. Framework will know that you have rotated the screen. That's only that it got destroyed and created. It will not be there. So if it is not null, that means screen rotation only, then I don't need to initialize fragment. Why? Because the fragment already attached to the activity will be restored by the activity by default. Correct. Example, here this login page is displayed in my activity. This is a fragment which is displayed in the activity. I just rotated my screen. So once it rotated, this will completely destroyed and recreated. But when it comes, this saved instance state will not be null. Okay, so I don't need to initialize the fragment. This fragment initialization will show the login page. I don't want it. Why? Because the activity already stores this login page and reuse that fragment. So I don't want. So I need to initialize fragment only on the initial launching of the application. That's only this condition. Otherwise, we will end up duplicating the fragment. If I didn't put this condition, whenever the rotate also, this initial fragment will be called and it will duplicate the code. Okay, so that's this condition is. Now initialize fragment is where I am adding the fragment to the activity. As I showed earlier, this container, this ID of the container, which is defined here, this one. In this container only, I am replacing. So as I create, you can see I have created a home fragment and authentication fragment. I created this authentication fragment only because I embed both the login page and sign up page inside one fragment only. Because the operations are more or less same only for these two pages. So I used one fragment where I embed. So how I am showing which fragment, either home fragment or authentication fragment, is based upon an access token. So this is a shared preference. Shared preference is nothing. If you want to save some value which you have to use across the application, even if you come out of the application and you relaunch the application, as far as your application is not uninstalled, if it is present, and if you want to use a value or refer a value, the shared preference is a good option. Because we can store one value as long as the app is not uninstalled, this value will be present in the application. Uninstalled, or you explicitly go and clear data, this value will be there in the application and you can use anytime. So that's only. So what I do is whenever an authentication is successful, our authentication is done from the backend service, which also you can see the previous video how the backend service will send an access token, authenticate and send an access token. So we receive an access token from the backend. That token I will store in the shared preference. So here I will be checking if that access token is empty or not, and if the token is not expired. So token has an expiration time also. All this thing I have explained in the previous videos. You can go through it. It will be helpful. So if it is not expired and if it is present, then what? I don't need to show again authentication fragment. I can show this home page only. Correct, because the user is already authenticated, so you can show the home page. If the token is expired or if that access token itself is not present, then the user has not authenticated so far, then the authentication fragment has to be added to the activity fragment container view. Okay, so this is the logic in the main activity. Very simple. We just set the content. This is default. Any application we have to do that, and we are initializing the fragment. And initialize the fragment if based upon the access token only. If access token is present and not expired, then we show the home fragment. If it is expired, then the authentication fragment. Okay, so I think you got a good idea on this main activity. So now assume the flow as access token is not present, then we come here, we are replacing it with the authentication fragment. So now we will go to the authentication fragment. Okay, so here it is. So it's I have defined authentication fragment inside the package called UI, because all the UI component I want to keep in one package, so I named as UI, and there I have created a folder called auth to keep the authentication fragment and its associated libraries or classes. And the same way I created a home where I created keep the home fragment and associated dependencies. So here you can see the authentication fragment. Okay, so the fragment, as I told earlier, it is a part of an activity, and the fragment also follows this almost same life cycle like we have on create, on start, on resume, on pause, on stop, and on destroy. Same life cycle we have. So here I have used some of the lifecycle methods here. In the activity I used only one on create because I just want only that action, because I only want an action to run in the on create only, other than that nothing else. But here some more things are there which I will explain one by one. So first is an on create and then an on create view. So this on create view is something dedicated to fragment only. This lifecycle method is not there in the activities. This is something related to the fragment. Okay, so so in the on create method, as what I am doing is, as I told in the activity also, we have to call super.onCreate because the framework needs to do some operations when the fragment got created. So we have to do that. Then whatever we need, we have to define here. So I have created something called authentication service. Yeah, this I will come later. So another thing is create view. So this is the method where the view is created. In activity, the view is set in the on create only, but here in the fragment, the view is created or view is set here in the on create view method. Okay, and now you can see there is something called binding I have used here. This is something, a new feature or somewhat recent feature introduced in the Android. Earlier and all we doesn't use like this. There is no concept of binding. Whenever we want to create a view like this, what we did here, we use the layout and define here. Define like this layout inflatter dot inflate. We define that view here, but with this binding we are saving some boilerplate code. So binding is nothing, whatever the view related things of a fragment, Android itself will auto generate all that component and assign a variable to there. So we don't want to create the reference of all these components. So component is nothing like a button, text field. For example, inside the fragment, here only if you see, you can say username is a text field, password as a text field, then a button, and the text view. So this and all, whenever we define the XML file, we have to create the corresponding reference in the class file. So many boilerplate code will come if the page contains like 10 or 20 components like this, like text fields or like fields, 20 fields like that you have to create. So but using this binding concept, we can save that much code. So what to enable the binding component, what we have to do is, coming back to the build.gradle, we have to put a property like this, build feature view binding is equal to true. So when we give like this, whatever fields associated with the fragment, it will be auto created in a binding class, and that binding class can be used here. So this binding class will be something, it will be here in the build folder, generated folder. Here you can see inside the debug folder. So look, authentication fragment, I have the fragment authentication binding. So here you can see, look, all the fields are the fields. I will come there when I show that XML file, but you can see this many fields are there. All these fields are automatically generated by the framework itself. We don't want to write. Otherwise, if this binding was not there, we have to write all this code in our fragment, which will create a lot of boilerplate code here. So that made it easier. Yeah, look here, inflator dot. This is what in earlier we used to do. We write inflator dot in the on create view. We used to write this inflator dot inflate and then give the XML file. This is the XML file, the fragment authentication. Here, this fragment, this file, and then we return the root. But now with this binding thing coming, we just need to we can just call that inflate method only. So it will give a binding, and then if you give binding dot get root, that will be the view. We can use like that. So we avoid a lot of boilerplate codes with this binding concept, and this code is auto generated. That is another beauty of it. Which will be generated only by using this view binding is equal to true feature. So our view got created with the help of the binding class. Now there are something you can see, a view model provider. Okay, so this view model provider, which will, sorry, not this one. So view model provider, which you can call the authentication view model class. So view model class. So here what I am implementing is an one design pattern like, or an architecture like model view model architecture or design pattern that I am implementing. So this also came in the recent release of Android only. Why? Because you have seen in our Angular also the state management. This is also a kind of state management, but I am not using extensively for state management. I have some intended purpose. That's why I use this, because if you, as I explained you, this screen rotation, right? Screen rotations create a lot of nuisance in our code actually. For example, assume you are in the login page, you enter the username and password and you click login button. So what the application will do when I click a login button? It will call an backend web service. So backend web service calling will not be in the main thread. Okay, I told main thread. So maybe there are two types of thread we use in Android. One is the main thread or the UI thread, and all other threads are called background thread. UI thread, we have only one UI thread, which actually shows the UI features like this. When we open a page and we see the screen, whatever happening in this UI is done in that UI thread only. So, but whatever API we are calling a backend API, or we want to call some database or something, all should happen in a background thread, and that should not be the UI thread. This is because if you do that thing, the UI will get lagging. For example, if I call an API in the UI thread itself, UI will get stuck there. Then user cannot even do scroll, or user cannot show a progress bar, nothing. UI will stuck because UI thread will be occupied in calling the API only. It will be waiting for the API response only. So that is not at all acceptable, correct? So what we do when we call an API, it will be in a background thread, so that UI thread will not get impacted, and user still can use UI. User can see in progress bar. We can display progress bar in the UI thread. So UI thread will be still working. So background thread is used for calling this. So why I am coming back to the point, the view model concept. So assume that when a background thread is in process, so it is called from the main activity, right? So I have created an activity or a fragment. So it will have an instance. For example, assume the instance as 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now I am calling a background operation to call an API or something. So this background operation is called from the fragment instance 1, 2, 3. Assume as 1, 2, 3. And the background operation, let it be in progress. Now the user during that operation just change the screen orientation. So now what happened? This instance will be recreated. The fragment instance will be recreated. So it will be, now the new instance will be like 456. It was not 1 2 3, it will be like 456. The 1 2 3 instance will get destroyed, or it will be ready for garbage collection. 456. So this I am not saying in the activity fragment lifecycle concept. This is I am saying in the Java memory concept. So object memory concept. So this is intent, fragment, and activity. Everything is a Java object. So now the Java, once the screen is rotated, the object corresponding to the fragment is 456. But the background thread which initiate that call to the API still referring to the fragment object 1 2 3, because that only called this. Now what happened? Once the login is successful or something, login is error or something, for example, login create an error that user does not exist, then what I have to display that message in the UI side, right? So when I display that background thread still have the reference of the old fragment instance 1 2 3. So it will come use that 1 2 3 and say display message. It will result in illegal state because that 1 2 3 is already ready for garbage collection. The state does not exist because the user has rotated the phone and it has created another instance of that fragment 456. So how will we manage such cases? So before this view model concept introduced by Android, we have to do a lot of manual coding to handle this. It means we have to write something to make aware that when the phone was rotated, not as a phone was rotated, as a generic, when the object got changed or fragment, if a background thread is already called from the first object and now the UI fragment object is a different object, then we should manually write the code to call the appropriate new UI object to display this message or something. So we have to write a lot of coding, but with this concept of view model, that can be minimized. That coding can be minimized. Android instead give a lot of libraries, especially this view provider library, which can be made use to avoid that illegal state exception which we will get when we call the destroyed fragment object or destroyed activity object from the background thread. So how they do is, as I have written here only, whenever an activity is created, this view model will be created for the first time. So view model now have a life cycle that irrespective of the activity or fragment life cycle, you destroy the fragment, you recreate the activity, you come back, you rotate it, anything, view model object once you created, that will be spread across the multiple life cycle of the activity or fragment. Okay, so that is the first concept. Whenever you recreate the activity, because fragment, when we consider this page, when the screen is rotated, activity only get destroyed and recreated and the fragment will get replaced in that activity. So recreated activities receive the same view model which was created in the first thing. So that means in spite of multiple rotation of screen and all, view model remains the same. Okay, so now as I told, in the background thread, so now in the background thread, I don't want to refer to the UI because I have a view model which will be irrespective of the life cycle of the activity. The view model remains, the object remains same. So anytime from a background thread, I can refer the view model because view model objects once created will be the same across the different life cycle of the activity. So there is no way we will get an illegal state exception. So in the background thread and we refer only the view model. Now how this view model, so we now give a value, for example in the previous login message, user does not exist message has come, so we give this message to view model. So now from this view model, this message has to come to the UI side. Okay. So how it will be done? This will be done using a listener. So that's only we have something called a live data. So this live data holds the state or the values which has to be displayed in the UI. It holds that, and that will be assigned to an observer. So this observer, in turn, we define an interface here. The interface method is like this. So this method will be called each time a state is changed in the live data. So you got a view provider and or a view model will have a live data stores the value of this. So in our case, for assume from the background thread I updated the data in the live data. So once the live data is changed, it will call the on observer method in the UI. And this but here, as I told, here also this observer, this instance will keep on changing. This is nothing. Here I am pointing to the same fragment only. Fragment instance will get destroyed whenever a screen rotated. This object reference will also get changes, but that will be taken care by the view model provider. So this view model provider, every time an activity is recreated, it will assign the new instance to this view model provider, or it will change that instance accordingly, so that the view model will refer only, or the live data, whenever data change, it will only point to the latest fragment, latest activities UI component only. This is that management of the instances of activity or fragment is taken care by the library. So we don't want to write the earlier we have to write the boilerplate code to check the state instance, if it is an illegal state, or if it is a new state, then update that. But with this thing coming with these two pieces of code and then a state management in the view model, we will achieve that. Okay, so that's how it works. So this is little bit made our life, developers life, easier with this concept. And one more thing, this can be used to manage the state of entire field, but I am not going there, because as I told, my intention or my purpose is only for those values which change from the background thread. Because from the whatever change from the UI thread, I again don't want to use this view model concept, because that will, for me, from my perspective, to create unnecessary code again. So that, let it go in the normal flow only, normal state management, whatever coming from the background thread. Because background thread will always from the background thread, whenever we call the UI to update something, we should be clear, we should be careful that we are pointing that to the latest UI instance only, not to the old illegal instance. That this view model provider will take care of it. So we just assign from the background to the view model provider, that will take care and assign the values to the latest UI instance. Okay. So saying that, I have another method called saved instance state. So what is the purpose of saved instance state? This is like, as I told, I am using the view model provider only for those data coming from the background thread or used in the background thread. But there are something like this username, and for example, I have entered a username 123, a password 123. Now I rotate the screen. So once I rotate again, this activity get destroyed and recreate again. So when recreate again, this username and password will be empty, because this again comes as a new object. This username field, this password field comes as a new object. So whatever I entered will not be stored there. So to preserve that value, but this activity is happening in the UI thread only, not in the background thread at all. So that's only to preserve this kind of values, I use this saved instance state. I will not go for the view model for such thing. I use the inbuilt saved instance state library. So saved instance state, like whenever you rotate the screen, whenever the activity is about to destroy, it will call this on save instance state before the destruction. So what we can do is, whatever I want to do, I want to store the edit text field only. I am concerned with the edit text field, because that is the only thing I have in this page where the values entered will not be saved anywhere. So I need that value when the screen rotation changes. So that's what I am doing here. So what I did is, I have created one class like authentication state. So here I have two classes inside that. One is the login value and the sign in view value. So login like username, password, and the corresponding username error and password. These are something validation I have put. So validation error will be shown in this field. So I have showed that, because that that also should be displayed when the screen rotates, change, selection changes and all. So that I am storing here. So what I do is I will assign to this object what all the current values stored in this field. I will assign that sign in and log in, and then assign to the saved instance this bundle. So what happening is when the rotation changes and the screen orientation changes, it will again call on create, and it will again come on create view. So there I will get the saved instance state, and as I told, saved instance state will be null only on the first launch. Subsequent launches like screen rotation, destruction, creation, this value will not be null, because here we have called already and we are setting it. So if it is not null, that means screen, I assume that the screen orientation changed, that's only it came and created view. So what I want these values to be whatever I stored in the previous destruction has to be come back, or has to be put back into the corresponding field. So here I used a method called display state, that here I am setting that value in that fields, these fields. Okay, so that's what happening in the save instance state and the display save state. Post that, what I am using is something like set on click listeners. So this here, what all fields I have, I am setting that. I have login button, sign up button. So I have this login button, sign up button, then sign in with Google button. That listeners I am setting here. This and all set when the view create, only I have to set it. That's only means post the view creation, when the user click, the listener should be there to do the operation. Then bind sign up test. Yeah, this is like here. Whenever the user is, when the first page launches, it will be showing this login page only. Now if the user is a really new user, he want to sign up, so he can click this field so that this page will come visible. So that listener only given here, the sign up test, and similarly here the login test listener and the sign up test listener. So when he click that, what should be done is given there. Okay, and okay, so that's the listener's skeleton of it. Now we'll come to each operation. So maybe I can show you the page how it looks in this fragment authentication.xml. Okay, so maybe I can open this in an emulator and show how the page look. That will be more clear rather than showing here, rather than referring this layout, because here the buttons are not coming as expected. So I can compare that and this page, and I can show you. So to emulator, because whenever we want to test an application, rather than relying on a real-time machine when the development is progress, it is better to use an emulator. So to create an emulator, we have to come here, tools, and just click the device manager. And then you can click this add button to create a virtual device. So you can create any device, you can give the configuration and all, and click next and finish it. So, okay, so I have created some 3 virtual devices here, and I am using this Android mobile. Okay, let me start that and see how the application. To start, you just click this, you have to select that appropriate device from here and then click this play button. Okay, you can see that application page in the emulator. So this is the emulator here. So you can see that page get loaded. So this is what we have defined here. So here what I have given a scroll view. So first parent is a scroll view. Inside the scroll view, I have a relative layout. Why I defined a single layout inside scroll means a scroll view should contain only one layout. You cannot define multiple view inside a scroll view. If you want to define multiple view, you have to pack everything in one layout and then assign the layout to scroll view. So that's how scroll view works. So that's why I have given everything in a relative layout. So layout, generally speaking, in Android we have multiple layouts. So one is a relative layout, another is a linear layout, then we have the frame layout, then constraint layout. So relative layout is used when I want to keep fields in a relative position. For example, I have to keep one field right of another field, one field below another field, like the relation. If you want to maintain, then we use a relative layout. Linear layout is something if the direction is in a single, either vertical or horizontal. For example, here if I say username is there, password is there, this login button. If these three fields, if you take, they follow one principle, right? One below, one below, means a vertical pattern. So this I can keep in a linear layout. This kind of thing can be relative layout. Sorry, linear layout. So now coming to frame layout. Frame layout is nothing. It's like a piece of cake, a cake layers. Like you can see in the cake, what you see, you keep one layer over the another layer like that. If you want like that layer over another, we can use a frame layout. For example, this one, this is a line and this line, and this is an OR letter or test view. I want to keep the OR test view on top of this line, so we can use a frame layout here. Okay, so now let's go and see what it will be relevant. Whatever I explained is relevant in this field. So first is a button. So button is nothing, this one, this sign in with Google button that I have defined here. So here I have explicitly defined a style as outlined button. This is because by default the buttons are like this. They don't have any outline. They just have a color and a text here. But the sign in with Google, I just want to look different from the normal button. That's only I made a style like outline button and put here, so that we have an outline color here. And now coming to the contents here, test I have specified a sign with Google. Width is match parent, let it match the parent, and height is 50 pixel. And I have given icon. This Google icon is from here only, inbuilt from the inbuilt Google library only. I have used that icon. And stroke color as gray. Stroke color is nothing, whatever this outline color we can define. I have defined as gray. That's about the sign with Google button. Next, coming to a frame layout, as I explained, this line and OR, this I have defined the frame layout. This view is nothing, the line, the test view is OR. So test view will come on top of this thing. So that will be maintained with the frame layout. And next, again I have created a frame layout here. So why I have created a frame layout again is like we have two views. One is the login page, as you see in the wireframe, login page and sign up page. When you show the login page, sign up page should not be visible. So that means I can keep both the views one on top of another, but I will hide one view and show another view whenever it's needed, and vice versa. So first, when we come, you have to show login view. So I have kept this linear. This is for the login view. I have kept this linear layout, and this is for the sign up view. Here I have put the visibility as gone. That means the code what it shows is the sign up view is on top of the logout view, but since its visibility is gone, it will not play here. It will not be visible here. Okay, it will get visible only when the user explicitly click this button. So when the user click this button, as I shown in the click listen, when he click this button, what happening is it will hide this layout, this login layout, or sorry, login view or linear layout, and show this thing. This visibility is gone like this. So when they click, yeah, this is a sign up page. Sign up page will bring what? Username, password, confirm password, and this many things. So this linear layout contains all these things, username. Same way when I click this button, the login view will come. So login view contains what? So that's only I kept both this login and sign up view inside a frame layout, because it is one over, as I told, frame layout is nothing, one over the another. And here I am managing the visibility using this property Android visibility, so that whenever the user clicks this button and this button, that visibility is only managed, so that either the login view or the sign up view is visible inside the frame layout. Okay, and yeah, so now coming to the login view, I have the editors, which is the username, then the editors for the password, very simple, straightforward, then a button for clicking that, then another linear layout which has an orientation vertical. This I maintain these two test views separately, because this one is clickable and another is just a message only. That's only I create a linear layout and put like this. So one is a text just saying not a member, other is a clickable with saying sign up view. Okay, so that this many components or fields add up to the login view. Same way, if you come to the sign up view, another linear layout, it will also contain the username, password, but one more field, confirm password, that will also come here. Then instead of login button, sign up button, and again the same linear layout format, right? Here already a member, there it is like not a member. So already a member, there it was not a member, sign up, already a member, login. So that corresponds to this match part, either this or this match part. Then if you see again, I have put a text view and then a progress bar. So this text view, where I have put, I have text layout below this thing. So that is how, where the relative, as I told, the relative layout, all these are embedded in relative layout. So I have put layout below auth view. So auth view is nothing, this one, this frame layout. This frame layout is the auth view, which contains both the user view, login view and the sign up view. So the error message, this test view is nothing to show the error message. If there is any error, for example, when the unknown user try to log in, we should get a message that user does not exist. When an already existing user sign up, we should say user already exists. So this error message should come as a test view, which will be displayed just below this. That's only with the relative button I can use this kind of property just below it or above it. So here it is below it and it displayed here. That's for the text view. And now the progress bar. Progress bar is whenever user click the sign in button or login button, your progress bar should be shown. Correct. The progress bar should be shown. So with the relative button, I can put use a property like layout center in parent, so that inside this relative layout it will come in the center, this progress bar. Okay, so that's how the relative layout. So with this activity, with this XML, we have got a fair picture of what is relative layout, because we want to keep many fields in relation to other field. We use relative layout, frame layout, layer over layer, and linear layout one by one, either vertical or horizontal, one by one, like a sequence. Okay, and scroll view should contain only one. Why I am using scroll view is because if in this orientation, this portrait orientation, it is well and good. But if I change the orientation, look, if I change the orientation, look, now if it comes here, look, the page becomes so short that because the height reduced and the width got increased, so I cannot see all that thing, right? So with the help of scroll view, I can scroll and see. That's the purpose I have put the scroll view, because we have some little bit content, right? So here we have some contents here. So to show that, I have put that. Again, coming back here, it will show here. Okay. So that's all for the XML side, or the component, field side, the UI field side. Now we will go to the functionality in the fragment class and see. Now, because as I showed, we will come to the on-click listener, because all this will have an on-click listener to do this. The login, this sign up, that we will see, and this sign with Google button also. So first let's see here, look here, the login button. So login button, what I have set here, I have set the on-click listener. The actions to perform is first calling a method to reset error. So basically this reset error method, what it will do is, if there is any error here or any error displayed in the error view here, it will reset all that. That's what it's doing here. Look, it's reset login error, reset sign error, and any error, it will reset that. So that's the only purpose of that method. And then I'm calling a method is login field valid. So we have to, if to do the login, we should make sure the login username should be present, and password should be also present. So that validation is done here. Look, if checking username is present and password is present. If it is not present, there is the error message you got here. For example, if I'm just sending 1 2 3 4 5 and then again click, now the validation fails here, asking enter password. So this is what this method is doing. If both are valid, then I'm returning a true here. So it will come here true. Then only the required action of do login is getting called. If there is any error, this will be false, and an error will be displayed in this text field, and this do login will not be called. So that is one thing. So now before going to do login, we'll just iterate through all these action listeners, and then we'll go deep into the do login, because that there is because inside that only the main logics are written. So same way, if you come to sign up button, so here if you click here, you will come to the sign up button. So there also same thing, reset. If there is any error, reset that, and then check is sign up field value. So sign up field, we have 3 fields. So one is the username, another is a password, and another is confirm password. This should be filled, and also there should be a check, this password and confirm password should be same. Yeah, this 2 field is to make the user not enter a wrong password without his knowledge. That is the purpose of this 2 field. This is common across any sign up page, you will have seen like this. So this value should be also done, the password and the confirm password should be same, then only it will return true. So here also, if you see, if username is not entered, we can see enter the username. So if you give enter the username, then the password will come here. So now if I give password as 1 2 3, and now I will click sign up, it will say a confirm password should be there. And now instead of 1 2 3, if I give 5 6 7, then it will say password does not match. Yeah, so these 4 validations are there in this sign up. If all these are valid, then it will return true here, and then call the do sign up action. This also will just come later. Then the sign in with Google button. So sign in with Google button, there is no validation because we are not entering anything. When we click this button, it should do the required action. So that we will come earlier. Yeah, reset view is there. So reset view, what it is doing is, if we have entered anything in this login or sign up page, we will reset that. So that action is also performed here, and reset there. So that much is done here. Now coming to this 2 action is nothing for this sign up and the login. This already we have seen while showing the page only. This sign up. So if you click the sign up button, it will what? It will reset the view, means it will empty all the fields filled here. For example, I'm filling something here, I'm filling something here. Now if I click this sign up and come back here, you can see these fields are reset. So that is what is done by the reset. And then what? If I click sign up, login view, this is a login view. Login view will be gone and sign up view will be visible. Yeah, that's what is doing. Same way, when I click the login view here, it will disappear this sign up view, and the login view will be made visible. So that much is the on click listeners we are using in this fragment. Okay. Now coming to the actions, do login, do sign up, Google sign in. So these 3 are the relevant actions which has to be performed here. So do login and do sign up. So this basically should call the backend API, correct? We should call the backend API to do the authentication for the login and the sign up. Login for the existing user, sign up for the new user. So if you have seen the previous video where we have developed user authentication service, there I have shown how we developed a backend authentication service which perform the login and sign up. So same API only we should call from here. So for more details on the backend part, please refer the video. I will provide the link in the description section. You can refer that. So then coming back, do login. So as I told, it is an API, backend API call. So backend API call, we to call from a front end or a client application, what we need a HTTP client, right? So HTTP client, then we need the backend URL, and using this HTTP client, we call the backend URL either the get or the post method, right? So now we need a HTTP client. So HTTP client is already inbuilt in the Android library, but if you use HTTP client, we have to define the post method, get method, the payload, the get params, and all that. Which will again create a lot of boilerplate code, I will say. So there are some external libraries which can be used in the Android application. They provide more flexible solution. We don't want to write a lot of code. We can use that existing library, and with minimal code we can achieve this, calling the backend API. So one such library I am using in this application is called Retrofit. So to download that library, again coming to the build Gradle, we'll come here. Here is a dependency section. So I am using this one. This is the Retrofit library. So Retrofit library, if you see here, this is the group ID, this is the artifact ID, and the version of the Retrofit I am using is 2.11.0. So we will I'm defining that retrofit library here. So this, once we define, and when we change, for example, I will show you, for example, if I'm changing something here, like retrofit, or maybe not here, I'll just change here. If I make 3 or something, you can see a sing now will come. So if you click this sing now, automatically the required libraries will be, or dependencies will be downloaded to our application. Okay, so I'll ignore these changes for time being, just to want to show you only I have made the change there. So here I am using the retrofit library, and once we sing, as I showed here, if we sing that, it will bring that library here. Okay, so now how retrofit works. So basically what they are saying is, we don't want to write boilerplate codes to call the backend APIs. Instead, what they're saying is create an interface. So create an interface and specify abstract method in the interface, which in turn will be a representation of our backend API. So for example, if you see here, this add to post denotes that this API we are calling is a post method. Okay, if you are using HTTP client, we should say HTTP client.post or get, or we should specify the method as post, nothing. So here, if you're using retrofit, what they're saying is define an annotation post. This annotation comes in the retrofit library, as you can see here. Just annotation post, so that the retrofit framework understands that this method corresponds to a post, backend post API. And this login is nothing the URL. Not the complete URL, after the root URL, whatever the API URL you have to call. So that you can specify here. So post and the URL part which you have to call, means the part of the URL which have the endpoint, I would say endpoint you have to call, you can specify that. And then you can give any name for this method. There is no specific pattern and all. You can give any method, any meaningful method. And then if it is a body, means if you're calling a post, obviously you need a payload, correct? So if it is a payload, then annotate with at body, correct? If it is not a body, if you're just passing a param, you don't need a send body. So here, if you have seen the previous video, there in the login we have a body which contains the username and password attribute. So I annotated this with at body and created a data class with that username and password. So this in turn will be converted to the JSON format by the retrofit and sent to the backend API. So this make the code very minimal code. We need only minimal code to call an API. No need of writing all that post method and all. Just create an interface and annotate accordingly, and this in turn will give an response back call, which called a class called a call, which is of a generic param, so which is like a T or something. There you can define what you are expecting when you call this API. What we are expecting from our backend API, we are expecting only an access token instead a payload. So that class I have created here, and I have to parameterize this call class with that particular class. So making it more generic, right? So any response we can annotate. So with this much thing we attain, instead of doing a lot of code, we attain and backend API call in our Android application. So this is this. Now as I told, this is an interface. So this is an abstract method. Now abstract method we cannot do anything, correct? The code should use an implementation of this thing. So this implementation will be in turn done by the retrofit framework only, using this annotation and all. It will understand that. So it will write that other codes like HTTP client and all that. So we don't need to worry, we just give like that. Now we have given the endpoint, but we have to specify the URL, correct? The URL should be specified somewhere. So for that, what we need is, we need to create a retrofit object, and in that retrofit object we give the URL and other, I will say, metadatas which are required to call this API. So as you know, as you have seen in my previous video, here we have an authentication service, and after authentication we will, after going to the home page, we have to call a demo microservice also to get the employee response. So both are two different microservices hosted in different URL or hosted in different, anything can happen, means the URL will be different. But one, as I told you, one retrofit object corresponds to only one URL, one backend. We cannot use one retrofit object to call multiple. So that means if there is multiple backend service we have to call, we have to create that much retrofit object. So to make it more abstraction, to bring abstraction, I have created one interface called Retrofit Builder, which should build a retrofit object and return. So I have created a method like build, and I have given the context because if you come to the next methods, next implementation you understand why I have given context. So this is the interface I have created, so that now current application we have two backend. One is the authentication backend and another is the demo service backend. In future, if they come, we don't want end up writing one class and keep on modifying that class for the different backend we are introducing. Instead, it should be an abstraction. We should create a new classes. It's like our one of the design principle, right? It's like open for extension but closed for modification. That design principle we should follow. Otherwise, it's a tight coupling. So here I created an interface, and that interface is implemented here in an authentication service. So in the name suggests this is something which is dedicated for calling the authentication service. And this authentication service includes retrofit builder, and this retrofit builder, what is abstract method build. So that build method is implemented here. So what I am doing is I am creating the object of retrofit. Yeah, this method, everything is given by the retrofit library only. So retrofit builder, and here is the URL we have to specify. So now if you understand why I am giving a context here because URLs are not advised, are not good to define inside the Java classes, because URL will differ based upon environments. Right? In dev it may be one, in local it may be one, in production it may be different. So what I did is I just created a values with the name as URL, and there I have specified. Yeah, now for time being we need auth only. When I come to demo, you will understand demo service. So auth URL, and specify the URL here, and so that this URL value, depending upon environment, we can create a new URL file based on the profile. Okay, so we don't want to, so we can create a profile like for production, for acceptance, or different environment, and create an URL file for each profile. So based upon the profile we activated, it will automatically pick the URL corresponding to that profile. So we don't want to keep on changing this. We can create multiple URL file and define the URL for that each environment there. And by defining the profile accordingly, when we deploy the app, it will use the appropriate URL. So thereby we don't want to keep on changing the URL for each environment. We can create multiple file depending upon the environment. So that's only I brought the URL out of the Java code. If you define Java code, it is not possible. For each environment we have to keep, that is not advisable. So that's the reason I brought it here. And in this authentication, authentication service retrofit builder, I am calling that and setting here. And this convert factory is nothing JSON factory. So as we seen in the authentication service, we are passing an authentication request object which has to be converted to a JSON format. So the JSON, I am adding the JSON library to convert the Java object to JSON. So that we can add here. So with this, we create a retrofit object that is required. So now with this retrofit object is ready, now we can call the backend API. So that you can see coming back to our authentication fragment. So you can see when I come to the do login, okay, yeah, now we have the authentication service. So now we can directly call this authentication service method from our UI code, that means from the fragment code. But still, if assume that look, this is an interface class and we cannot do any modification here, correct? Now in future, assume that before calling this request, before calling this API, do login API, I need to change something in this request or something, some modification, something is required. So in that case, what we need to do, and if this do login is called in multiple fragments, we have to go and change everywhere this interface is getting called and post it. But instead, if we bring an intermediate layer like a repository class, so what happens is we can make the changes here. Yeah, for time being here we don't have, but I am speaking in the future perspective. So with this repository, this class in between the fragment and the authentication service, I can do any modification here, and I don't want to go end up changing each place where the login service was called. Only in one place I can change. So thereby we can maintain the data encapsulation also. That is the purpose I created an authentication repository. There is nothing other than that. This is the only, like taking into consideration the future perspective, if you want to make change, we can come and change the repository only. The service also will not get impacted. The client means the fragment side also will not get impacted. Okay, so that's the purpose I created repository. Nothing. It will in turn just call the authentication service. Okay, so now coming back to the fragment. So that's only first I instantiated the repository. So repository, I will pass this authentication service, and this authentication service, if you see, on creating the fragment only, I am creating the authentication service. Okay, so to create this authentication, as I told you, the authentication service is an interface. So it will be in turn implemented by the Retrofit framework. So now, how we get that authentication service object implemented by this Retrofit, we have to first create the Retrofit object using this authentication Retrofit builder. So if you can see the authentication Retrofit builder, what I have already just a little bit earlier I told, right? We have creating the Retrofit object. So that I'm calling the build method, and I'm passing here get context. Yeah, context can be renamed with require context. Yeah, I'm passing that context. So this much will give the Retrofit, and then Retrofit's libraries method called create, which is a Retrofit library method, and pass that authentication service class. Pass that authentication service class. It will create the object of this authentication service implementation. So we don't want to worry about the implementation. We just get the Retrofit and call the create method of the Retrofit with the interface class which we have created, which contains the signature and all, as you have seen, signature of the post and all that. So it will create the object of that implementation. So that we got it. So now coming back here in the do login section, so we create the repository and pass this authentication service which we have created during the on create of the fragment only. So here it will come, authentication service will come, that so that it can, when we call the repository.login, this authentication service intent can be invoked, which will call the backend API. So that's how it is. So repository, then repository to do login, and what? So do login, what we need? We need the request. Request contains username and password. So that I am building here. What? From the username text field and the login password text field, whatever value there, that will be set to the authentication request and called to the do login. So now, as I told earlier in the authentication service only, which is the same value is returned back to the authentication repository, what? Call of that response. That will be returned back. Okay. Now we got a response call, and response call dot enqueue method. So this is where, in this method is where the actual call to the backend API. So till this time the API is not yet get called. It is build the details which are needed to call the API only. Here in this enqueue, when we call this enqueue of this call object, there only it will call. And as I told in the beginning of this video also, that calling an API and all should take place only in the background thread, not in the main UI thread. Otherwise the UI will get laggy. So that's only. So when you call this thing, it will execute that in a background thread. And what we need is, we need to define a callback interface. So what I did is, I created a class called authentication callback, which in turn implements the callback. So this callback is the Retrofit library interface, which actually, what do you say, that implementation actually do the actions in the background thread, like calling the API and getting the response, how it is formed. The definition of response we have defined when we create the interface, when we do the do login interface, when we define it, we have specified we need this thing. So here, and this implementation will have two methods. One is on response and on failure. So it's nothing, it will do the operation in the background thread, and once we get the response, if it is successful response, it will give to the on response. If it is any failure, it will give to the on. Failure can be many, connectivity issue or anything, that will come here. But if it called the API and it is successful, like we got a HTTP status code, which can be an error code or success code, that is another story. But if you got a HTTP code, it will come here in this response. If the connection itself is failure, then it will comes to the on failure. So that is how it is handled. So it's little slightly we have to create the authentication service, or the I say retrofit service, using the retrofit object, and that retrofit service will give a response call object. That call.enq only in turn will call the API, and that is implemented in an interface which I have written separately. Instead of making the authentication fragment too complicated, instead of implementing here, I have made it a separate class and implemented here. So here I will get the response. So this response, this failure, these things will be happening in the background thread. Okay, so till this much only will be creation of this authentication callback. Till this will be the main thread. Once you call this enq method, then whatever happening is in the background thread, and the response and for the success or failure also will be happening in the background thread. Okay, so now coming to that point where I explained in the beginning, the view model which I defined. So here only, as I told, from the background thread, if I want to update the UI, I use this view model, which is nothing the model view model architecture. So now if I explain here, you will understand. For example, we got a success response. So if success response is happened, okay, so before that, when we call this, when we instantiate this object, and before substituting to this enq method, what we need is, because this all happens when this do login button is pressed only. So login button, the request is created and we call the enq. What we should show a progress, right? Because we are calling a backend API which may take some time. So till the time, to make user aware, we should show some progress bar. Correct, we should show some progress bar, and so that progress bar is created here. If you see here, view model dot hand progress bar from main thread. Here I am saying main thread because, as I told, instantiation of this will also happen in main thread. Only after calling this enq method, the background thread will be executed. So what does it do actually? So if we come to the view model class, what I am doing here in the handle progress main thread. So the live data is nothing. This is the view data which stores all the data required for this view model lifecycle, or the view model state, I will say. So there I will get the value. If there is any value, just get it. Sorry, get it. So if it is not null, then only set, because it is clear that it will not be null, because we are setting the view data, initializing the view data while creating the object itself. So it will not be null. But again, to make a safe null check, I'm putting that. And then what I'm saying, I'm setting the progress bar as visible. I'm setting what? This is the live data. So whenever there is a change in live data, what happening is the observer will be called, and in our case, the observer is nothing, the fragment only, which I have shown earlier here. Maybe I'll keep this here. Yeah. So here, look, this is the observer. So observer, this observer is nothing. Yeah, this is actually an interface only, but what I used is a functional programming. So observer is nothing. Observer is a method with you can see here, this is observer. Observer is an interface which has only one method. So this is a functional interface. When you come to Java perspective, it is a functional interface. So functional interface we can define using the object references. I'm using a functional program only. Object reference means if in our class we have a method which matches the signature of the interface abstract method, then I can refer that method. So if you see here, the method in my class is on live data change, which returns nothing, void, and it expects a live data. So in observer also, here also it expects a live data and returns nothing. Yeah, this is in Kotlin format. It will be, when it's compiled, it will convert to the Java format. So that's only I have used the same. So I can now refer this on live date change in the here in place of the observer interface. This from Java wait only this kind of functional programming was introduced, so we can use that method here. So what does that mean is, whenever any value change in this live data, this observer method will be invoked, which is nothing, which we define the observer as the fragment only. So it will come, and as I told in the beginning also, and I am repeating again, fragment, even if it destroyed or recreate anything, this view model will, or the view model provider will maintain the latest instance of that object. So thereby the illegal state exception will not come. Whenever an data is changed, it will reflect or it will make changes in the latest fragment object only. It will not refer, even though this live data was created from another another instance of the fragment which got destroyed while rotating the screen and all. No issue, that this view model provider will take care of that. When anytime we change the data, it will call the observer method of the latest instance only. That is very important, because this had made lot before the introduction of this or the implementation of this thing. View model provider, we have to handle all this manually, but with this thing, this become very easy for the developers. So we just want to change the state only. Remaining, we don't want to worry about what was the object instance, was it destroyed or like everything. The library will take care of it. Yeah. So now coming back to the project, we set the progress bar as visible, and some mistake. Authentication live data is nothing. It is what I was saying was view data only. That is our mutable live data. Authentication live data is just a class which I have created to define the params which has to be updated from the background thread for that. So I have said that, and that's only, that value only is set inside the view data. So see the mutable live data, the parameterization is nothing. The authentication data, which is nothing, a class which I have created where I have specified multiple. You can give us a string. You can also get anything here. Since I have two params, I created a class and maintained that inside that. And that class is given in the live data. And when we update this only, sorry if I told when I update not here, this is just an object, a Pojo object which I created, and that is what set inside the mutable live data. So whenever we set this value, whenever this mutable live data changes only, it will call this on live data changed, irrespective of the instance was destroyed or created or whatever the instance, it will call the latest fragment instance. Okay, so it will come here. So what I did when during that enqueue method, when the login means the login service is called, during that enqueue method, I am setting this view model.hand progress bar. So what I am setting is I am setting a boolean as visible true, and that value set here. So when this view mutable live data got changed, it will call the on data changed method. This is where the observer is listening, and there what I am checking. So when the data is changed, I will set here the errors test view was empty, means whatever is there in that. So in this case, how it works is, here I am using the existing data. So whatever error data is there, let it be there only. I am not changing that. So that error data will still be shown there. What I changed is only the progress bar boolean flag. So here I am setting, if this authentication live data, whatever I set now, this is the variable where I set the boolean flag true now. So now it will become true. True means it will make view visible, and when it is visible, the progress bar will get displayed in the shown the layout. It will be in the center of the parent. Here it will be getting displayed. So that's what will be done as part of this. So that is sign up. Sign up both are still the same only here. So as part of the object creation, your progress bar will be created. Then this object is passed to the enqueue method. So enqueue method now will call the API. Till the time the API call, all the background process happening, this progress bar will be shown in the progress bar will be shown the user, so that user is aware something is happening in the background. And now we got the response back. So we got the response back. So assume if it is successful, or we will go with the failure case. So for example, we got some network issue or something we got. So again, then I am changing the view model data. Look, I am setting error. Look, now I am setting from background thread. This is because we are calling, so there also, whenever we set data, here if you see from the main thread, we call view data.set value. But from the background thread, it is post value. So these are the two methods. So that's what the library, this view model provide library says, that if you want to change the view data from the main thread, use set value. If you want to change, use post value. So that's only. So here, what I'm doing is I'm setting error from the background thread. So what I'm doing, I'm just changing. Look, I'm reinstantiating the Pojo class. The Pojo class nothing which contains two fields. One is the error value and another is the progress bar. So reinstantiating, so that what happened, the show progress bar will be default become false, and whatever the error message I got, I'm setting that error message, and that is set as a post value. So whenever the view data got changed, what happened? It will in turn call the on data change method here. So again the same thing. Now what happened? It got the error, right? We set the error. So this will be set in the error view. Error view will somewhere come here. I will show you now. So that will set here. And the progress bar, by default we reinstantiated this authentication data, this Pojo class. So it will become false. So it will become false. The view will be gone. Understood? So that's how it works. Authentication callback. Yes, that's how it works in case of failure. Now coming to the success response. So success response, whenever we come, I am explicitly closing the progress bar because I don't need to do any other changes in that live data. Only the progress bar I have to hide, because if it is successful, our next action is nothing. We should navigate to the home page. So that's only I have put a navigate method. Okay, I can explain that. Maybe after explaining this, I can explain this. So yeah, then just keep it aware that we are just navigating if it is successful, and the progress here also it is calling from the background thread. So what we'll say, view data dot post value. So again, I don't want to go back to show you. You should have now understood. The progress bar will get invisible. Authentication callback. If there is response is not successful, in this case, this is like this failure will come when there is some network fail, even there is no response. This is like response successful means we got the HTTP response, but HTTP response is not of 200 sequence with 200 are successful. If it is not 200, we have sent some error back from the our API service. For example, when the user does not exist, we give 404. When user already exists for sign up page, we give conflict, which is 402 conflict. So that error is handled here. So what I am doing is we just decode that response. Sorry, not here. Yeah, here. From the response body, I'm decoding. I'm getting the field called error message. So if you see that user authentication service, whenever there is an explicit error like user exists or user does not exist, that error are set in a variable called error message. So that value I'm getting and sending back. If that field is not present, then there is something unhandled exception, not handled by a backend service. Then in that case, I am sending null. So what happened? So if it is not null, that error, that will be a meaningful error sending from the backend. That will be displayed to the error view. No, if the error was not handled in the backend, there was something unhandled exception happened in the backend and sent it back. Then I'm just displaying something went wrong in the fragment somewhere here. Okay, so that's what happening in the login view. Now same way only now when we come to so now this login, I think you are clear with that. Same way only now coming to the sign up flow. So sign up flow also from here, after the validation we call the sign up. Same way in the same authentication service only created another post method for the sign in. Remaining flow, everything is same. And now coming here, repository. Yeah, only thing is now the username and password is set from the this field, this username and which is binding sign up username and sign up password field. Yeah, now again coming to authentication, I'm using same authentication callback because both for sign in and login. Only difference is what? The calling of the API, the response is same. So that's only I'm using the same callback. So this is the response is handled in this callback only, right? So we are getting the same authentication response. So I don't want to create again a new class for it. I can reuse the same thing. And the actions we have to perform after the login and sign up is same. If the login is successful, the sign up is successful. What? Go to the home page. If this is error is also displayed in the same fragment, same place. So no need of creating a new class for the same existing class. We can use the same flow as it is. Okay, so that is the authentication callback for the sign up and the handling of the error as well. Okay, so now maybe I can just now show you some sample errors. Now, yeah, I haven't enabled my backend. So maybe one more thing, if you see my backend URL, which I showed earlier, I have used we cannot use a local host here because if you give a local host refers to this virtual machine, not to our machine where we are running the application. This is virtual machine. So if I use local host, this will in turn check for this port in this local host which is not there. This is running our local machine. So that's why I have used the IP address of my machine so that it from that virtual machine it will call the IP address. But anyway, now I haven't started my backend service in my local machine. So now if I call this thing, I expect an error here. So let's see. I give something like 1 2 3 4 and I give 1 2 3 4. Fine. So now if I click login, look, we are getting the progress bar. This is how from the main thread we have enabled the boolean, so it came to the on state change, and from the UI thread it made this visible. Yeah, now what happened, the flow is like it came to the failure scenario because I haven't run the backend application in my machine, so connection failed, so it came to the on failure. This is the response we got, the error message we got, error throwable error message we got, that I set from the background thread. So as I explained earlier, this background thread will go and change the live data. Once the live data is changed, observer is listened, and once observer is listened, it will do there what I specified. I have to hide the progress bar and set the error. That's what happened. So now maybe let me show you when I doing this process, if I rotate the screen also, how it will behave. Will it behave or will it throw anything like state illegal state action, nothing. Let's try. So I'm just again clicking login, the error will go up. I am rotating my screen. Look, the screen got rotated. Now the activity and the fragment got destroyed and recreated. The view accordingly, the view provider, yeah, look, it got finished. And now if I scroll back, look, error has come. That means, yeah, the fragment instance got changed, but the view model provider will take care of the latest object only and set the value. Correct. If it was not the case, this error message should not come. When we try to set the error, it should have thrown some illegal exception. If we were handled directly from the main thread, if you just send it to the UI. So that's the benefit of using the model provider. Okay, so that's clear. Now if I again set it, rotate back, look, the state is changed. This state is handled how? This state is handled by, because this is not from the background thread, this is a main thread. So this is handled by here, where is authentication fragment? Yeah, this is done by this only. Here it is. On saved instance, we maintain this field value, and so whenever state change, this value will be the same only. The same value will get displayed again. So this is the purpose of this on save instance, and once recreated in the saved instance is not this displayed. These two things handling this value. Otherwise, if we didn't do this, when we have rotated this value should have disappeared. And this value is set in the error param, which is in the live data. So when the object recreated also, it will in turn call the live data set value, and since our Pojo class holds the error there, it displays there. Okay, so this edit test fields are maintained using this saved instance state, and this error field and the progress bar is maintained using the mutable live data. Why we are maintaining these two inside mutable data? Because these values get changed from background thread also. That is the only reason we are maintaining like that. But this is not, these edit test fields are not used in the view provider, because this value will never change the background thread. This always change in the UI thread only. So unnecessarily we don't need to pollute the view model. Okay, so gosh, you should have got a better picture. Now when I click sign up, look, all the error, everything should have gone. Yeah, that is the reset which I showed. The reset method will reset everything. So same with the user here also, 1 2 3 4. Now I should be careful. 1 2 3. I should give the same 1 2 3. Otherwise it will not allow. So 1 2 3. Now if I give sign up, then also it show the progress bar, and we should get the error message that connection failed. So that's it, the login and sign up. Now coming to the sign in with Google button. So there, if you see the listener again, the sign in with Google button, what all I am doing, I am resetting the view, resetting as I told. I will, whatever the value is present in login or sign up fields, I will reset that to make the view clear. Otherwise, user will get doubted whether he was logging with sign in with Google, or if like something like that. Look, a value is there and he clicks sign in with Google. Later coming back, he will get confused. Did I sign with Google or sign with this value? So that's only resetting this when we click that. Okay, so what it does is, so it in turn call a new class which is created by me only. So why I created a separate class is, there are some logic to be implemented in the Google sign-in, which is something like a facet, means some not complex, but still it's not even something which is relevant to our fragment. So actually I completely moved all that thing outside to a new class here. So that class I am instantiating, and I am calling one method inside that class called sign. So this is something like a facet design pattern where the complex logic are completely kept other side, and we just call one method which will do the remaining. Like Google sign in, what it has to, as you have seen my previous video, yeah. So many references are from the previous video only, because there only I have developed all the authentication services. There, as you see, whenever we sign with Google, it will call the Google API, and it will bring a Google page where it will ask your consent that can we authenticate your Google user to this authentication application. Once you give the consent, it will create an ID token. The Google will provide an ID token and give that ID token back to us. So this all things has to be coded in there. So just to since it's like a facet thing, kept another side, and we just expose only sign in method, so that wherever we want to use like this, we just instantiate and call the sign in method. So now let's see what is defined there. Okay, so here coming to the Google sign in, you can see I am passing context and then two interfaces on Google sign in success and Google sign in error. This is why, as I told earlier also, we don't want to club that Google sign in fragment together. Google sign in should take independently, and once the result is there, we should get that result in our fragment. So if it is success, we should get a success result here, or an error, we should get an error. So that two things I have created an interface here, a sign in and success and sign in error interface, which has which has a method like on. So it's like it's also a functional interface. It means an interface with only one abstract method. And so here what I am referencing is I have created two methods here and give the, again, functional programming. I am giving the method references, so that if I give like that from the Google sign in, if it is success, whatever defined here, this will get executed. If it is error, whatever defined here, it will get executed. So that's only something. So coming back here, so that two interfaces I have instantiated there and passed here, or the method reference is passed here. Okay, so now the context is used, and in this class we have said that inside the constructor. Then what? There is something called sign in with Google option. So this are the libraries we require. And also if you see, Google sign in implements a credential manager. Okay, this credential manager is what I think, it's a generic library introduced in Android to handle all this kind of authentication, like Google sign in or biometric, whatever authentication thing they want to generate, group it in one place, like credential manager. Instead of segregating in many classes, they want to bring in one under one umbrella. So that's why they created this credential manager. And with this latest SDK 34, Google sign in without this credential manager is deprecated. So that's only I introduced, because we can use Google sign in without this credential manager, but this deprecate 34. That means in another 35 and all, they will remove this Google sign in without credential. They will make Google sign in mandatory using credential manager callback only. So that's only I have, now it's in 34 itself. I introduced, I also coded with the credential manager callback. So for this we have to bring some library also. So here if you see in the build Gradle, so yeah, library we required are this one, Android X credential, and the artifact ID is credential, and the version I am using is 1.2.2. so I need credential, then credential play service auth. It's the same group ID, only the artifact is different, credential play service auth, and the version is also same. Then what I need is a Google ID library. This is from the Google, so which is nothing like, the artifact itself is called Google ID, and the version is 1.10. 1.10 Google library is compatible with credentials 1.2.2. So that I have created here, and that I defined here. So credentials, credential play service auth. So these three libraries are required if we want to implement Google sign option in from Android 34. And we can still use, there is another library called play service auth, play service something Google auth. We can use it, but it is deprecated, means anytime they can throw it off. That's only. So these are the three libraries we required for that, and library definition is given in this TOML file. Okay, After defining that, synchronize it. So the libraries will be downloaded here. So now coming back to the Google sign-in. So we have to create a Google sign-in option. So to create a Google sign-in option, the method is get sign in with Google option dot builder. We have to call the builder method, and we have to pass a client ID. So again, here also reference to previous video. When we developed the Angular web page for authentication, there also we have the sign in with Google options. There, if you have seen, to any Angular application or any Android application, from our side, if you want to use the Google authentication, we have to create a Google auth consent screen and Google credential in our Google developer console or in our Google project. I have seen in that. If you please go through that video, you will understand. There I have explained how to create a auth consent screen in our Google project and a client ID. So same way for Android also we want the client ID. So the client ID we have to give is the same client ID which we use for the web also. So maybe I will show that page. You will get better idea. Okay, so this is the page. So here is the auth consent screen. This I already explained how I created in the previous video. So same way you have to create a auth consent screen. Then you have to come here and you have to create a credentials. You have to click this credential and take this auth client ID as the option. Okay, when you select auth client ID, it will show application type. So when we developed Angular page, we created this web application only, and then we created. Okay, so for this Android also, we still need this web application client ID. In addition to web application client ID, we have to create one more application type like Android. So in this Android, what we have to give is, we have to name will be auto generated. We don't need anything. We have to give the package. So package is nothing. As when I created the project also, when I told it, package name we should keep unique because that is required in the Play Store and many places. So that package name we have to give here. So in our case, it was like org.code with anish.auth application. Then also we need to give a fingerprint SHA1 certificate for the application. So now I am using from the debug mode only. So for debug mode, how you can get the fingerprint is you have to use key tool minus key store and this debug key store file. So debug key store file is found in, I'll show you that. Yes. So in your home directory, there will be a folder called .android. This will be there when you install the Android SDK itself. This will come here. This folder will get created. So inside that folder, if you click, there will be a file called debug.keystore. This is the key store which you should use here in this command. So, and key tool will be present in your, if you have added your Java binary as in the home path, key tool will be automatically on. Otherwise, it will be there in your Java home bin folder. Okay, so this is the debug.keystore and key tool will be present there. And when you run this command, it will ask for a password. Password you have to give us Android only. So there, when you give, you will get an SHA1 fingerprint there. So it's key tool. Maybe I will show you how to run this. So I have to, maybe I will take this path and, okay, I'll open here one more terminal. Here, if you see in this path bin key tool, this will be there. So now if we can use /keytool.exe and you can copy this full path, this full command, copy, paste here. The only thing you have to change is the path to that key store. Path is nothing, this is the path. And slash, what was that? Debug.keystore. Debug.keystore. So when you enter this, it will ask for a password. You have to enter password as Android. So once you enter the Android, it will list your fingerprint. It's like Android, ANDROID. It will do that. There you will get the fingerprint and that you can pass here. Okay, I'm closing this. That fingerprint you can pass here, and then when you click the create button, a client ID for Android will be also created, just like what you can see here. So I have a web client ID and an Android client ID. How to create the web client ID, you can please refer the previous video, you will get it. That also is very same, only you have to give some local host and details and all that. Yeah. So after creating this ID, the client ID which we have to keep in our Android application is not the Android client, it is a web client. Please be clear, because everyone will get confused, because we create an Android client ID, so we should use this client ID only in our application. No, Android client ID is created to authorize the application signature. That means only those application with that signature only will get authenticate, means can use our auth consent screen. And the client ID which we have to use in our application is the web client ID. So we have to copy this web client ID. Yeah, and that you have to specify. So for I have specified that in a file called keys. Inside that keys, I have specified a value called Google Auth client ID, and there I have given that value. Okay, and then using, so that is why I need context, because to refer any resource file we need the context of it. So inside this auth client ID, that web client ID is set, and it will be used to create the Google sign-in option. Okay, so that's how it works. So with the constructor, we created the Google sign-in option. So now after creating that, we call the sign-in method. So in the sign-in method, what we do is we make use of this credential manager. So to call a credential manager, we need a credential request. In the credential request only, we will add the credential options. As I told, this credential manager is something where they want to bring all the options, sign options like Google or any this OAuth option or any biometric, fingerprint, face scanning, everything they want to bring under one umbrella. That's only. So here we can add multiple options if we have. So but here for Google sign-in, we use this credential request with this sign-in option. That sign option we only created in the constructor. So that we set here. Then what we create a credential manager object, nothing, just straightforward static method, create and pass that context. Okay, so we get the credential manager, and this credential manager get credential async. When we call this method, this will take care of remaining all the things like asking the consent, bringing the consent screen, creating everything, calling the Google API, get the token, everything will be taken here. So there the parameters to be passed is a context, the credential request. So credential request is nothing which we created with, it means with this request understand that it is a Google sign option. Then a cancellation signal. This cancellation signal, in case of any cancellation, if you want to handle it, we can give that. So that I have defined here as cancellation signal on click listener, on cancel listener. I have defined here only one method like on cancel here. Yeah, this one. So you can define this. I don't see much relevance here. I didn't get any cancel signal so far, but this is a mandatory parameter. So you can just define like this cancellation signal. Then what? A thread. We need an executor. So the executor is something which will again make it run in the background thread. So executor, what I did is I created an execute method. Executor, if you see executor, what executor does is it is also in functional interface with a method called execute. Okay, this is pure a Java class only which has execute. So again, I can bring the functional programming here. I can create a same method, the same signature. Look, I have also created a same method like executor. It's like return void and runnable is an input parameter. So I can create a same method with runnable and void. Then I can pass that reference here, this object reference here. So inside that framework, when they call this, it will execute these things. It is nothing. They want to run in a thread. So that should run the operation in a thread. So that thread is created from us only. So we are giving that. Then what? Then there is a credential manager callback. So credential manager callback, basically another interface where we get the error and success. Same like you see in the retrofit also, we get the error, and same way this credential manager call, because once it is successful, once it will call the Google API, return a Google response, that will come in the on result. If there is any error, that will be handled here. So on result will contain an object called get credential response, and error will contain an object called get credential exception. So that again same thing, it's an interface, but this is not a functional interface. That's only I have implemented that in this class and this credential manager callback and overridden that two method here, so that I can give this class as the credential manager callback. So whenever the response come, it will appropriately call error or on result method. Okay, so now error. So what? Now if you have seen, we have also created an interface in case, uh, not in case, we have created to handle the error and success back, because we don't want to bring our fragment logic inside this class. This class is fully isolated. Here only the Google sign-in logic should work. So once it is successful failure, that error or success should again send back to our authentication fragment using this interface which we send, which we have passed here. So if it is error, we will call our interface on error method, which is again referred here as I shown earlier. On error Google sign-in, this method will be invoked. On success, it will call the on success. But on success, what we need a credential, Google credential. So we get a response. From that response, we take the credential, and that only is passed here. That's only here a little bit operation is done before calling the on success. Okay, so success means we get the Google credential from the response and pass it, because I don't want to again use this logic there, because I am expecting only a Google credential as response. I'm not worried about the credential response. I am concerned about the Google credential, because I am calling Google sign, so my success should contain the Google token credential. So that I am passing here. So if it is success or failure, this method will be called. This is referred here. So if I come here, the Google sign-in, on success sign-in and on error sign-in. So on, if it is success sign-in, I got the Google token credential. So from that token credential, we will get the ID token. And this is what I have to send to my authentication backend API, because this token is what validated in my authentication backend service if it is really came from the Google or not. That also, please see the user authentication service video or the first initial technical design video. You will get what I am explaining now. This token will be valid in the backend. Once it's validated, we got the response. So our concept, we should get this token. So once this token is received, fine. Then we again go and call our backend API. As told earlier, the authentication service, the retrofit service. So there, if you see, it is nothing. It will in turn call the API. So Google API are handled in the endpoint 3P sign-in. Again, please refer that video. I have explained how this 3P sign-in endpoint is created there. And the request here, yeah. So here in that request, we have a string called provider. So in this case, it will be a Google sign-in provider and header. So when I explained this also, this actual body is the payload. If you want to pass any header parameter in the retrofit, you have to annotate with header and give the name of that header and the value of that and header, and we are passing here. And now coming back to the authentication fragment. So here, look here. So maybe look, now we can, instead of this thing, we can pass just like this, and we can make use of repository, right? Here we can give like this. Look, yeah. So this is why we create a repository. If there is any change has to be done, I don't want to make change in the UI fragment side. I can make in the repository, and that will be, look here also the token we got, we have to append with the bearer and only send to our backend API, because it's a bearer token. So here I will get the token, I pass to the repository, let the repository do the remaining. Correct. Repository, let it add the bearer token and call the sign API. Yeah. So this way we call that, and Google provider, it is just string like Google, yeah, that one, and the token which will be appended as bearer and passed to the service, which will give a call object. The call object enqueue, as I told, the same, because here also we are expecting the same response back, like similar to Google and sign. So same callback, which will in turn on success or failure will update the live data and do accordingly. So this is the Google sign. Okay, so maybe I can show you how the Google sign-in works. So when we click the sign-in with Google, look, it will ask choose an account, because I have only one account, and since it's an Android application, our username or Gmail ID will be already authenticated. Okay, so that's only. So if I click this, it will in turn call. It has given a token also, and this token is now sent to our backend. Okay, now backend is not up, so we will get the same failed connection error. Yeah. So sign in with Google is working. So look here, as I was telling, since already it didn't ask for password. Understood? Because our Android machine will be always authenticated with an Gmail ID. That email ID will I'm using. So that's only when I click itself, it doesn't ask for password. It just because the password is already there in the mobile. So it went to the Google API, got the ID token, and bring the ID token back here. And that token, when we got here, so maybe you can see if I show the log catch, you will see. If I clear it. If I now click here, look, we got a token here. You can see, look, this is a token. This is I'm printing here. So I got the token here on success, means everything is successful. This Google sign, this was successful. There is no error. It came here and it went back here. So authentication fragment on success, it came here and that token is displayed here, and this token is now set as a bearer token and sent to the our backend service. And our backend service, still I haven't made it up, so we got the error saying that it failed to connect. So that means this is working, all the logic implemented is working. Now only thing is our backend is not ready. That's only we are not able to authenticate it. So with this, the fragment authentication fragment is completely done. Yeah, still now if on this, yeah, that I halted, I kept aside this one, what, navigate this thing fragment. Yeah, so now if we get a successful response, we stop the progress bar and we go to the navigator. So fragment navigator, this fragment navigator is actually passed when we call where is that, do login, do sign up or do login here. So if you see authentication callback, we have two parameters. One is the fragment navigator and another is the authentication view model. Yeah, view model is because from the background thread I want to change the UI value, so that is a view model. I spent quite a lot of time now. Fragment navigator is again an interface I have implemented. This is because in this application we may require to navigate from from authentication fragment to home fragment, and also in cases from the home fragment back to the authentication fragment. So I brought the abstraction here. Instead of hard coding a tight coupling, created a abstraction navigate and fragment navigator. And here if you see with the method navigate, so it will in turn act like a functional interface, correct? So I don't want to implement, I can do a functional programming here. So that's what I have done here. So look, the fragment navigator, I have used the method navigate to home, which has the same signature as what is defined here. Look, it has void and a param, generic param I have defined, because as I told, this fragment navigator can be used across the fragments, home fragment. So whatever I have to pass can differ depending upon the fragment I am using. So I just made this generic type only. So here what I am passing is authentication, because when I want to navigate from the here when I got the token response, I want to navigate, what I will get from this callback is a response only, a token only, correct? Token response. That's only I defined that here, authentication to response. So with this method signature, I implemented this fragment navigator here only. So what I'm doing here, so when I got a success response from my backend API, this authentication response contain a token. That token I am adding to the shared preference. So again, I am coming to the main activity. Main activity, how it will work, whenever it login, the page got launched, it will check the shared preference if there is something called access token, correct? And access token is not a spare. So that thing is actually set here only. This is the first time. Whenever we get a success response only, we will set that. So the value which is referred here is actually set here only when we get a successful response from our backend API. So we are setting the token we got. Editor, whenever we edit it, we have to call the edit apply. Then same way, same like this get act that support my begin transaction. We are changing the fragment, right? As I told, because one activity we can change the fragment, any number of fragment we can use. So now current state will be the authentication fragment. There I am replacing it with the home fragment. So this authentication fragment will get completely destroyed. The home fragment will be placed here. So that's what is happening in the whenever we get a success response back from our backend API, we navigate to home. So yep, yeah, do login or sign, yeah, whatever, navigate to home. This get called. Okay, so fine, everything is done for the fragment side, and we reached till the navigation also. Maybe what I will do is I will enable my backend and show a success flow so that you can see how the navigation work and how the home page will be displayed. Okay, I have started my backend service, the user authentication service. So now let's so this is the first time, right? So no user will be there. So maybe I will show that flow here. If we should get an error if I give code with Anish and I give a password like 12345. So now if I call, I should get an error saying that user does not exist. So I'm clicking the login. Yeah, look, our backend is up. So that only when I call, it's saying user does not exist. Well and good. Okay, so if user does not exist, I have to sign up. So I'll come here, I'll enter code with Anish, password 12345, here also 12345. Okay, and when I click sign up, perfect. Look, it has came to the home page. Here, yeah, I will explain the content here, but as you have seen the wireframe, as you see in here in the wireframe, the home page should have welcome. So welcome the username. So I have given welcome username. In addition to what is given here, I have added a logout button also because I want to show testing of different users, right? So a logout is required. In the web page, I haven't added because there I can close the section so that it will get logged out. But here I cannot do that. I will uninstall this. That is little. So I have added logout also. Rest everything is same. Your roles will be there. And fetch employee, it should display a table of name, company, designation. Remaining everything is same. So this is the page. So maybe I will walk through the code of this as well, the home fragment also. Okay, so coming here, we can go in this navigation only. So we got the navigate to home. So it will be like home fragment. So it will come here. So home fragment, when you come, it is defined inside here. Same on create and on create view. So on create view, again I am using that binding only, so no need of again boilerplate code to refer the fields of this fragment here. We can directly use the binding object only. Okay, and again home model also I am using the view model provider because here also we want to update the data from the background thread, because when we call the employee will come as a API response which will be ran in a background thread, and that employee has to update to the. So I have users. So if you see the home view model, here you can see the mutable live data consists of only this one, home live data. Correct. This is what I have defined. So here I have three params. One is the list employee, as I just told. This is a response which we got from the backend API whenever we call this fetch employee button. Okay, so that's there. And the error message and show program is similar to the authentication. Same thing. If any error, I have to display an error here. Also, whenever I click this employee, I have to show a progress bar also, and I have to handle that. On clicking, it should show. On getting the response or any error, I should hide it. So that is happening in the background. So these three things, datas or coming from the background thread. Sorry, backend and background is getting twisted. Background thread. So I have defined that in this model view live data. Okay, so there, and same way if you have, when I show you that authentication live data only, same thing I call them. When whatever I want to change from main thread, I use the set value, this whatever from the background thread, post value. Okay, so that's about the home view model. So that is done here. Then again set on click listener. Same thing. So here the on click listener, we have only two listeners, correct? So we have a logout button and a fetch employee button. So that should be handled. Yeah, I will gradually come there. Before that, set user attributes. So as you see in here now, when I came, we have something like welcome. This is the username I have used for signing, correct? Code with Anish. So, and its role is role user. This role detail and all, you can see in my previous video how this role and all is set. So how I get this value? These values are now from the token only. This token which we store in the shared preference, from that token only we get these two values. So that I am getting that value from the token using inside this method only. So what I did is I created a class called user claim, which contain in username, authorities, and an expiry. So these three parameters are there inside the token payload. Details how the token payload and all I have explained. I'm saying this so many times. I have explained it because that I have extensively covered everything there in the previous video. You can check there. So I have created a class there and then decode access token. So we get the token. From that token, the payload is taken, and the payload is nothing a base64. So using the base64 library, I am decoding the token, and once the decoding token, it will create a string of JSON. That JSON is converted to the user claim object using the JSON library. That's what happening here. So from base64 converted to a string, readable string. That readable string is a JSON format. It will be like user hyphen name, username, code with Anish. Authorities, it's a list. So bracket open, bracket close, role user. Expiry is the expiration time. So this many things there. That will be in the JSON format, which will be converted to a user claim object using this JSON library. So that's what we receive here in the user claim. So once the user claim is there, then then we got everything. So we set the username here after welcome Anish. Then role user is it's a list. As I told you, it contains list. Now we have only one role for this user, but role attribute is a list which can have multiple things. So that I have added in an array adapter and given a simple list item, because this is something I have defined as a list view only. So list view, we need an adapter to set the values that I have used. In the adapter, we can pass that list of values. So it will display that accordingly. Okay. Maybe I can show you that layout also. So you'll get much better idea. Because I was showing the page only. This is the final outcome, but how this page came is here also. I have defined a relative layout, and inside the relative layout there are so many layout I have put here. Okay, so this text view. So what is this text view? This text view is the welcome this message, and this button is nothing the logout button. So these two are baseline. If you see welcome code with Anish and logout, baseline means it's being in a single line. And how I achieved is you have to give this text view align baseline to the logout button. Using this parameter, you can achieve that. And button, since it's a relative layout, I used align parent end. So that means this button will be always at the end of this parent, and this will be baseline, and also it should be to the start of, means in front of this logout button. So with that only we can align this welcome and logout message accordingly in one line here. So that's how it is. And then a view, nothing, just a line for a partition as a divider to make it look good. I have did like that, nothing other than that. Then text view, just to print this your roles, that's all. Under that only the list view, as I just explained, a list view which will display all the user, which I showed you. In this list view only we set the adapter. Adapter contains the list of those values, and that get displayed. If you have multiple roles, it should have displayed one by one as shown here. Yeah. Okay, so that's the list view. Then what, the main button, which is the fetch employees. So till this thing everything is visible. Okay, now coming to table layout. So table layout, what I have kept is I haven't defined anything. I just defined an layout only. There is no value. So layout is nothing. It contains 3 columns. So each column 0, 1, 2. I have enabled stretch. Stretch means when the value come, it should stretch accordingly. The value, like here, if the name is big, it should move like this. Company like that. So that's only can. Otherwise, it will be congested. Okay, so that's the thing here. And the layout is prevented. There is no value, so that's not getting displayed. I will now show you how the layout works, because layout, the table values are set programmatically only. I will show you how it is done. And then the text view for showing an error. If any error comes, I have to show here. And the progress bar, same, similar to what we seen in the authentication fragment. It will be in the sender parent, so it will be in like sender here in the center of the parent. It will show, and visibility is gone here. Means it's not visible as of now. It will be enabled whenever we call the API. So that's the layout here, and user attributes is also clear. Yeah. So now maybe we can come to the on-click listener and see how it works. So fetch employee, that is important, because there is where the API is getting called. So so set on click listener, again fetch employee, this is the method here. So what I'm doing is I'm first setting any error if there to null, so that if any error, when I call the fetch employees button, if already an error is there, it will go off. So that I have given. Then again coming back to the retrofit. So as I told, we have created retrofit for authentication service. Same way I have created another builder for demo service, because as I told, depending upon one retrofit object can hold only one base URL. So this demo service is hosted in a different altogether different service. In a local machine, it running on the port 8082, authentication service running on 8081. So that only I have created a new retrofit builder, and following abstraction only, because this is the interface which it has to be implemented. Okay, so that demo service retrofit builder is used. So here also I have an repository, same pattern I followed what I followed for authentication. Same way in employee service. So employee service is a get employee, it's a get method. So look, you can see it is not with that to get, and here there is no body, no payload, no param, nothing. Only thing is we have to pass the authorization token, correct? Because that is a purpose, because this authentication application intention itself is once you authenticate, you get token, then whatever API you call, you have to pass this valid token, and only if the token is authorized successfully, you should get the response back. So that token has to be set here. So very simple call, and that is defined in the repository. Yeah, look, yeah, here I made use of this repository. The authentication I forgot to add it. Look, I'm adding here only. So that's the purpose of this repository. Any intermediate change we have to make between the fragment and service, we can do that. If we didn't have this thing, what happened in the fragment layer, I have to do all these changes, right? Which will be like, for example, I am calling from get employee here. Now I want to call the same get employee in some other fragment in future. This bearer, sometimes they may forget to add that, right? And now instead of bearer, now tomorrow if I want to use some other token, we can change it only in one place. It will get all other places we don't go and change it. So that is repository. So here I added the bearer token, and this repository is intent called from here. So what I have created the retrofit object, and from the retrofit object I have created the employee service as explained in the previous fragment only. Now from the employee service we created the employee repository. So repository, and we are passing the token to the employee repository. So this token will be in the shared preference only. So we get the shared preference and we pass that. And when we call this get employees, that token will automatically, whatever this token, everything is initialized in the constructor, that will get appended here. And then, again I'm going home fragment. Then as usual, we'll get the call of it, and call.enqueue will call in the background. And this again I am creating an employee callback similar to that authentication callback. Here employee callback, and like that fragment. Look, I'm reusing the fragment because here also we need fragment navigator. I will explain why we need fragment navigator. And the view model. Why view model? Because whatever response or the error we get, we have to update from the background thread. So we need that. Okay, so that is called here. Okay, fine. Then maybe I can explain this thing now, employee callback. So for example, if you got a response and if it is successful, well and good, what we need to hide that progress bar, which is set here, same as that of the authentication view model. Then we want to set the employee list. So same thing, we use this same POJO class only here as we created here, this home level, which I just showed now. So we set that there. So if we got an employee response, we take already existing value, and in that value we reset the employee response list, which will contain the employee details, and then we call the post value. So once we call the post value, Same way in the home fragment also we have the observer. Here the observer is here on live data change. So we got the live data here. Okay, so there I am calling show employee. So whenever a data set change, whenever this live data change, I am calling this show employees, where this employee will be displayed here. The table which I showed in the layout, that will get populated. And also same way only error, if this live data contain error view, set that error view, and if the progress bar is enabled, show it, or means hide it. So that will be. So now coming in the success scenario, we got the employee. So now when we got the employee, this is a response list. So if it is, I am removing all view. For example, why I am removing all view means only the view of this table. This table, if already, for example, I called first, click this button, I displayed employee. Now again I fetch employee, I should remove this only. Then only I can append the next response of the next call, right? Because it will bring the same data on each fetch employee. It will bring the same list. So if I didn't remove it, it will keep on appending the same data, will get duplicated and displayed here. To avoid that only, remove that existing views of the table and now recreate the table again. So again what? Set the table, including the header also. So header is nothing. You can see, right? Name, company designation. So this is, so I have given name, company designation, and in that table add that row. So table row, create a table row with the columns and add that to the table. So now what happened is, in this layout, one more row will come. We are programmatically adding. We can also add in the code also, but this is a dynamic data, not a preset data. If a preset data we can define only. It's a dynamic data. So this row get added. So after table header is added, then for each list, correct, we need to create one by one rows like this. So for each list, we are creating the set table data. Okay, so set table data, what I created for the first row in the list, created first row, and get data column. So we have to add a column, right? So column contains the name, so I am adding some padding and all that. So that there will be a padding and all. So that's the adding here, and we are creating a column, and that column is added to that row. Same way for company designation, everything we create a column and add there, and that row is now added to this. So if you have 3 employee lists, 3 rows will get, and that rows get added to the row view. That's all. So that much is what happening when we get the success response. Okay. Now same way, we got the response, but it is not, it's not of 200 series. You can see the range from 200 to 300. It's not that series. It means some exception happened in our backend service only. It's not between the connectivity, some error. So as you see, we have, if the token we send is not valid, we will send an error with the HTTP status code as 401. This I have explained very well using the Postman when we are testing that authentication service. So we send a 401 password. So if we get 401, what should we do? Because the user is in this page, but we got 401. That means user is no more authorized. His token has, or 401 can come, token may be expired, or he is using invalid token or anything. It means he's unauthorized. Then no time he should stay in this page, because this page is only for an authorized user. So what we need to move back to the authentication page, right? You log out and back, move to the authentication page. So that's what I am doing here. But this is nothing hiding the progress bar. This action, fragment to navigate with a message, your authorization is expired. So that navigated and a toast pop-up will be shown there, your authorization is expired. So that's the thing. Same way 403. 403 is nothing. He's authorized, but he doesn't have access, because here we have the role as role user. This role user in the demo service we created for that API we are only checking if this is role user. But in case if an user logged in, he doesn't have role user, he has something other role. So in that case, when he called that API, we will send back an error code as 403. So there we will not log him out, because he's an authorized user. He's still an authorized user, but his role is not valid to call this fetch employee API. So we just show an error only, that you don't have permission to access this resource. You don't have permission to access this. That's all. But still he will be logged in, he will be in the same way. So these are the 2 errors we get with the token. If the token is completely invalid, expired, everything 401, the role in the token is not eligible to call that API, we will get 403. So that 2 are handled here. Now, apart from this thing, any other error come? If it is a handled exception, as shown earlier, it will be in this error message param. So we get that and we display that. If it is not that, if it is not unhandled thing, we just say as oops, something went wrong. Some handled exception. As of now, the demo microservice, there is no such cases, but in future. So with that perspective, we have set here. Now this failure is nothing connectivity issue. We set the error like connection error. Yeah, maybe I can show the connection error because I haven't started the demo service yet. So if I now fetch employee, look, the progress bar has come in 8082. Didn't get this error message. So this is same way. So maybe I can show this fetch employee again with the screen rotation to test our model view is working fine or not, because that is the main purpose we create the model view. When we call this, if I change the orientation, it should still work and it should still give the message in the U. Look, it's working fine. If I bring back it here, yeah, perfect. Okay, so that's for this fetch employee. Now one more one-click listen is there, which is the logout button. Yeah, before coming to that, in this employee callback also, this 401 I am saying fragment navigator, right? So there, if you see how the fragment navigator is passed during the enqueue here is, look, I have passed this logout method. This method references only as the fragment name, because this method, if you see, it is the same signature, return something and a parameter. Here parameter is nothing, a string object. So this will be passed as a fragment navigator, because navigator expect a method with return void and a generic data type. So we come here, and so when I call this navigate, it will call this one logout here, correct? This logout here. So this logout, what? Because unauthorized case, he has to be now moved from this page to authentication. So what I do, I will remove the token, because since he has a token only, he has come to this page. If there is no token for the main activity, he will never come, because the main activity we are explicitly taking only if token is present, we come here. But unfortunately, this token got expired. Yeah, that check is already there, but in addition, it was, even if not expired, some invalid or something, because there we are checking in the main activity, we are checking only the token is valid, token is present and it is not expired, but due to some other reason he has come to the home fragment. So now we have to completely remove the token, so that next time when he come to the main activity, it should not show the home page, it should show the authentication page. So we delete that and we apply that. Then what? We have to navigate we have to delete this home fragment and replace it with the authentication fragment, and a toast, a small pop-up, which will show this message. What? So this message in this case is like, your authorization space, please log in again. Correct. Come here. The same method only I am now using when I explicitly kick the logout, because same, both the functionalities are same, right? From the response, if it is not authorized, you log out programmatically. If the user really wants to do logout, he can click this button, and so when he click this button, just a message is shown, you are logged out. It will just call the same method. Fine. So that's everything is done. So maybe now I will test the logout function and show you if it is working fine. It is logging. I'm clicking here. Look, you got the message here. You can see, right? You are logged out and you came to the authentication fragment. So that's also the home fragment is also ready. Now I will enable the backend demo service and I will show you how the table values are also coming. Okay. So now I can test the login functionality also. So same thing, right? Code with Anish. Yeah, and the password was 1 2 3 4 5, right? Or it's only 4. It's 5. Login. Perfect. No thanks. Okay, welcome code with Anish. Yeah, but here one thing we missed is we didn't, when we logged out, we should reset the error, right? Otherwise, look, okay, maybe I can change that code now only here. So during the log out, mode here, we can reset the error view. How to reset the error view? Home view model, let's set error now. Let's test it now. Okay, done. Let me restart this again. Now we will call the fetch employee, so it should give an error now. Now we log out, we come back, we say code with Anish tab 1 2 3 4 5. Now it should not, yeah, look, okay, so that's how. So that's clear, right? So this is so because we haven't added this before. That's only the error message is still there. Just we should reset, right? Any error message is there, it should be reset. That is done now, and now I will start the backend microservice also, so that I should get the employee details. Okay, I have started the backend demo service as well. Now let's call the fetch employees and see if you are able to get the data. Okay, so here it is, the response we got from our demo microservice, which I have explained in my previous video how the demo microservice works. So that result is also there. So that's it here. Now I can log out. Okay. Now let's log in with sign in with Google and see if it is working. So if I sign in with Google, I will select this account. So you can see that my Google ID is displayed here, and we have the fetch employees option and everything here. Okay, we'll try to fetch the employees. Okay, yeah, we can see the data is present here. Same thing. So that's how it works. So that's all. We pretty covered all the details here. Now one more thing I just want to highlight is the theme which I have used. So yeah, maybe I didn't show you this manifest XML. Yeah, so something, yeah, maybe I'll give a quick walkthrough also. This is the metadata file where we give all the permission details, everything. So here we define the application and the activity associated. As this is a single activity application, we have only one activity entry. And here also we say the what do you say, if you are using internet, because yeah, we are using internet to call our IP, so we should add this to permission. And another thing which I want to say is this network security, because by default, if you see the URL which we are calling is only HTTP, right? Because if you see the URLs values in the URL, here we are using only HTTP. Now by default, Android doesn't allow HTTP. It only allow HTTPS, means HTTP over SSL. HTTPS only to allow. So if you want to use HTTP in our application, then we have to do some configuration. So one thing is we have to define an network security config XML file, and there we have to allow the clear test traffic permitted. This parameter is true, and we should define that domain name for which the HTTP should be allowed. This thing we should define in an XML file, name it as network security config or any meaningful name. Then come to the Android manifest.xml and provide that XML file reference here. Then if such one finish there only, then it will allow that call. Otherwise, it will not allow. So that one thing you should take care, because yeah, now in production environment we are using HTTPS only, but for dev purpose this will be helpful. So that's one thing. And yeah, now coming back to the launch theme we are using. So if you see this theme, if you see here, the themes are defined inside this value. There is something. So if you see their values, we have two things: values and values night. Why? Because theme is something the user can change in his mobile, right? So some user like light theme, where it will be more like white background and all. But there is another option called dark theme also, where it will be a black background and all. So when the user set that is an operating system level. When they set there, we should respect that also. So our app, for example, the user set a theme as dark, and when he open our applications, like if you see in our application, now our application is full white. It is like a light theme. We should respect that, right? Because he set the dark theme, so that he wants all his application also to behave darkly, or it should also have a dark theme, not as a light. But here, if you see, it is light. So that's only we have two themes. So I also respect that user's choice. So I have defined two themes. So one I said values night and the rest. So this is the default theme. So when from the manifest XML, this is called, this theme.application is called, which in turn refers to a base theme application. This base theme application is defined both here in the themes as well as in the night themes as well, you see. So here this color primary is what we see in here, this button color, this color, this background color, this color is defined as color primary. So if you see, I have defined in ISO color also. ISO, obviously when theme is fully dependent on color, so color also I have defined one in the night and one in the normal place. So normal place, this one, I have given this blue color, as you can see, as a primary color. But if you see, come to the night, I made it little bit light, because night dark theme the background will be dark, so that these colors should be more light to enhance there. Same way, now if you come here, color window background, look here, that also, if you see in the normal thing, the background I have kept as white, so this all thing will be white, but in the night I have kept as black. So with this thing I respect it. So now I will show you, because this emulator is using light theme only, so I will change that to the dark theme and I will show you here. So I go to the settings, select the display, look, dark theme, I enable dark theme. Okay, now look, everything become dark. Now this OS full level become dark, so now I have to respect that also. When he come and select my authentication, look, it should also become dark. So same application, I didn't made any change, only with this themes.2 XML file I attained this. Look, dark, this is that primary color, the button color, everything will change. Look, the test font, this test font, I didn't made anything, that is by default. If a dark theme is used, this test color will be opposite to that. Look here, so in the sign up also you can see here. Understood? So this is how it works. There's just, I want to highlight this point also. So if you want to respect the theme, you have to maintain two themes separate in values and values night. Okay, so that's pretty much. Let me revise if I miss anything here. I think pretty much I covered everything. So yeah, what I will do is I will upload this file, this project in a Git repo, and share that link also in the description section. So what I want you guys is, instead of copy pasting the complete code from the Git, you go through this video, you refer that source project and try to write yourself by seeing this video, because I have explained step by step what to be done. So you can first create an activity, main activity, then the authentication fragment, write the code for that, then come to the home fragment, write the code, then try to integrate and try to run and see if it is working or not. So with that way you can also learn, correct? Instead of just copy pasting the code, you may, this application will work, but tomorrow new application come, you may struggle. But if you try to write by watching this video and using the source code as a reference, you can also learn well. So that's all for this video. Thank you for watching this, and in the next video I will try to come with some more better and interesting topic. That's all. Till then, take care. Bye.